Welcome to the Angus Conversation. I'm your host, Miranda Reiman, with my co-host, Mark McCully, CEO of the American Angus Association. And Mark, you were gathered in Texas earlier this week with a bunch of cattle feeders at the Feeding Quality Forum. Why don't you just give me, I didn't get to go this year, so of course I have all the FOMO, so you got to give me the recap.
No, it was a great event. I think for some that know that we've been doing this Feeding Quality Forum for, oh gosh, now getting over
20
15
years.
years. Yeah, close to 20 years. And it's really been fun to watch how that forum originally when established was really focused on just cattle feeders and topics and agenda for just feed yard managers. And what we found is over time, there's as many cow-calf folks coming to that, registered Angus breeders coming to that. It's really all segments of the supply chain. We had some large stocker operators there. And so, most of the agenda is focused most definitely on the cattle feeding side, but more discussion around genetics, and even I got to moderate a panel there at the end talking about so now what's all this mean for the cow side of things, right? How do we make all of this happen and keeping our functional maternal base of the Angus breed? And so it was a great event. We had just an excellent crowd, and Amarillo was a great host.
Kara Lee, I was talking to her, of course, from the Certified Angus Beef team. Her and that team do a lot of work organizing it, and she said that it was a record large attendance. So that's exciting when you put a lot of work into the topics and you hope that they're interesting to people from all over, and it appears that they were. So that's exciting.
Yeah, it was a great program.
Yep. One of the things that I think Feeding Quality Forum, which you just illustrated with the variety of people that now come to that event, it's not just cattle feeders, illustrates a trend kind of across the industry that there's just more and more focus on across the industry, the partnerships that are throughout. And one of the panelists that were there at the Feeding Quality Forum, we got to have here on the podcast today to help us kind of see more of the other side.
Yeah, we get to kind of pick the brains of a couple in the food service distribution business. And Miranda, you and I spending time at Certified Angus Beef, and I always say one of my favorite parts of being a part of this organization is this organization is plugged in literally from the genetics all the way to the chef, and such a fascinating industry with so many moving parts and so much coordination and collaboration that has to happen. And I've always been just fascinated by the food service world, the food service distribution world. I sometimes joke that, cattle producers think that they've cornered the passion for this business. You might think that until you get around some food service people. And I think that came through today.
Absolutely. I think you guys are really going to enjoy this conversation. It's a great way to kick off season 9. So today on the podcast, we have a real treat for you. We're going to kind of uncover a side of the beef business that I would say, Mark, most of our Angus breeders would feel probably least familiar with, and maybe all of the segments.
Oh, I think you're totally right there, Miranda. I think, and the cattle production side, we typically have a pretty good understanding of what happens when we all the way up to maybe the packing plant, and then we walk into a restaurant and we get a steak. That maybe what happens between there sometimes in the food service world in particular is a bit of a mystery. But we're going to talk to two really smart guys that have worked their career in that segment here today and shed some light on that.
Absolutely. So we're very happy to have BJ Johnson. He's the Director of Business Development for Buckhead Meat of Atlanta. And BJ, you and Mark were just in the same place at the same time, and now you're back in your own respective places. So glad to have you on the end of a busy travel week.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for having me.
So just looking through your, resume a little bit, the first thing I want to point out is you've been a long time Certified Angus Beef partner and supporter and had a long history of the brand throughout your career.
I have. It means a lot to me, and it's meant a lot to me, to my family, actually, because we were a registered Angus cattle producer, I should say, growing up. So we did in Huntsville, Alabama. Back in the 70s and 80s, we ran Black Baldies. Still had some of my grandfather's old registries from his cattle. So Certified Angus Beef meant a lot to us back then. And then to be able to work in it now is an honor. So I'm lucky enough to work in one of those things where I don't feel like I work a day of my life.
BJ, help us understand kind of your path to where you're at today. You grew up in the cattle side, went to school for management, then you ended up in culinary school. Do I remember all that right?
Yes, sir. I'm one of those that did go to culinary school, but I'd be the first to tell you that just because you go to culinary school, it doesn't make you a chef any more than going to art school makes you a great artist. So kind of what happened with me is growing up in North Alabama, being an idealistic kid. I loved growing up around the farming. It meant a lot, but I wanted to get far away from it because I wanted to go form my own identity and kind of go do my own thing. So I decided to go the restaurant path because it was this fun party and it was so alive and it's so grassroots, much like the cattle industry. I mean, it's very blue collar and passionate. So I went down that path and I decided I wanted to go to culinary school to learn more about it. And what it taught me, much like in the beef business, I thought I knew a lot. It taught me what I didn't know. But it also taught me that, man, I don't want to work in restaurants anymore. And I really do love the beef industry fully. It kind of took me back to my childhood, and I wanted a way to be able to parlay those two things together. So I've been blessed enough to work in something where I get to take that cattle passion that we grew up with, as well as that passion for the restaurant industry that I do not want to work in the back of the house of anymore. And it kind of brought the two together so we can consult with chefs on product. So it's just good having an understanding of both sides from being on both.
I think that might surprise a lot of our listeners. I would think most would think, well, you go to culinary school, you go to be a chef, and that's why else would you go to culinary school? But there's probably a lot in your organization that are out selling to or consulting with chefs and restaurants today that would have maybe a similar kind of at least culinary background. Would that be accurate to say?
100%. It just once you've lived in that world, because that is a very unique world to live in, it gives our sales consultants an advantage to understand what a day in the life of a chef looks like. So they're able to go in and just understand their world better. Because again, what we talk about here is we've got 26 sales consultants that we have in the Southeast that work for Buckhead Meat of Atlanta. We don't want salesmen. We want consultants that go out and talk about product, understand the story of the product, how we get it to market, all those things. So they can, again, consult with a customer because this isn't a one-time sell business that we're in. We don't just go in and, hey, buy this thing, it's going to change your life. We got to look you in the eyes the next week and see how it performed and then continue to make decisions together because we're trying to form a partnership there that helps them succeed. And therefore, we hope to grow with them as they succeed, or to be able to say, you know what, we might not be the best partner for you in this. Have you thought about contacting this company? Right. So it just makes that relationship so much stronger when we have people that understand both sides. And I'll take that a step further. We find that the people that have worked in the culinary industry that come over to this side, they live and die in the minute. So they have this sense of urgency that they can bring to the business because we also live and die in the minute. It's a fast-paced business. Our plant manager, our GM is a guy named Quentin Dino. Quentin, he worked for Emerald Lagasse. He was on Chopped or won an episode of that. He came into this with a complete chef background. And then he went to sales, and then he was director of merchandising, and now he's running this entire facility. But that sense of urgency and that passion that he brings to it relates straight back to the chef.
Well, I definitely want to dig into some of that, how you connect the cattle side to the restaurant side and all of that. But I also want to get to our second guest of the day so that we can let Pat have a moment to talk. So BJ had spoke on a panel at Feeding Quality Forum this week, and I understand it was a fabulous panel. But when we asked you to talk, BJ, you said, hey, there's a guy that I think ought to come on this podcast with me. So I want to introduce Pat Shepard, or is it the Pat Shepard, who's the director of beef procurement at Buckhead Meat Company.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on. Yeah, just Pat Shepard.
So Pat, BJ was talking about what he sells, but before he can sell anything, you got to get it bought, right? So talk about a little bit of your path to Buckhead and a little bit of what you do today.
My path is very similar. I came from a culinary background, but I did not have the family cattle business at all. Like my dad was a banker. I was involved in sports. I really didn't. There were no cattle in my life coming out of Georgia. So, I went to school for management also at University of Georgia and did not see any animal science at all had never been mentioned to me, never even never even thought about it in my life. And then coming out of the kitchen, I hooked on to Buckhead Meat of Atlanta in 2010. And that's where I thought I knew a lot of meat about steaks. coming into this role, found out that I do nothing about it and really discovered my passion. Like I got into it here and just was certified Angus beef and learning the science behind the animal. Just who knew as a young kid, I had no idea that passion was in me for this business. And then, obviously I've made a career out of it since then. It's the purchasing side and the hustle, like we spoke of, or BJ was talking about the hustle and it's a fast-paced business. And, on the purchasing side is too, every second counts getting product bought. You go into the day thinking, okay, this is going to be an easy Friday. and then
and then you get invited on a podcast.
and then the market moves, or this is available and this is here and this, that, and then all the alarms start going off. Like, I've got to get this, you got 15 different holes in the boat and, 14 things to plug them with. So you've got to, act fast before the boat sinks. So that's kind of how I attack each day. Like I said, I didn't know this would be, if you'd asked me, 20, 25 years ago, if this is where I'd be right now, like I would never guess this has been my path, but here I am. But yeah, also the teamwork of working in a restaurant, in the back of the house, in front of the house. I feel that that's a natural attribute that comes out of that business that helps this business thrive too. There's you rely on your fry guy, your hostess, your server, everybody's working as a team to make a building function. And then you look inside, Buckhead Meat of Atlanta, and it's very similar. Like, it's a lot of team. There's no eyes. There's a lot of let's get the job done. And it kind of the same feeling at the end of a shift too. Very similar. Very similar.
We've kind of skimmed over Buckhead. We keep talking about Buckhead and Sysco. Maybe explain a little bit to the listeners who is Buckhead, who is Sysco.
Yeah, Sysco is the largest food distributor, arguably in the world, and we're one of the sister companies that was acquired many, many years ago. So what Sysco does is Sysco moves product to restaurateurs from producers everywhere. They don't make anything, right? They don't fabricate anything. So we're a fabrication arm that also has a direct street team as well that sells direct, because some chefs would prefer to buy direct. Some want to buy through Sysco. So we handle both those. So Sysco stepped in and bought, meat companies. Anything right of the Rockies is known as Buckhead Meat. Anything left of the Rockies is known as Newport Meat. I believe there's 25 operating companies now, which includes a couple in Canada. That number is kind of moving and shaking a little bit, so don't quote me perfectly on that. I know it was 27 at one point in time. But our region alone, we handle from New Orleans, South Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, North and South Carolina, Georgia, the Panhandle of Florida, and now our president just picked up the rest of Florida, and so she handles all the facilities. Julie Toman, who you know very well, represents all the way down through that market as well. So our southeast market is it's vast, and we move a lot of meat. We move a lot of meat, but we can't do any of that without the rancher producing that meat first. Just so you know, a little history on Shepherd and I is we launched Certified Angus Beef together at Sysco Atlanta. That's where we met. He came down from Buckhead. I came over from Charlotte, and together we were able to, and it's really, the credit goes to him. We launched the most successful first year launch of Certified Angus Beef. I think US Foods Denver held it before, and I think somebody's broken our record since. But it was really more from his efforts and not mine. So Shepherd and I go back many years, and I handle the sales side. He handles the buy side, but he doesn't just do that. Like, he's worked on that as well. We cross a little bit, but anyhow.
And that's a good place to put a pin in it while we hear from today's podcast sponsor.
Cattle reproductive success has relied on visual observation for decades, until now. Sensub Cow-Calf provides a new approach to breeding success and time management. Utilizing ear tag monitors, the Sensub Cow-Calf system provides 24/7 collection of data and insights you can use to detect heats and more. With custom alerts and reports sent right to your smartphone, tablet, or computer, you can keep closer tabs on your herd and win back personal time. This changes everything. Learn more at sensub-cowcalf.com.
So we're really going to talk about beef today. Sysco, how many SKUs, how many products would an average Sysco warehouse carry, roughly?
We're not going to fact check you. We have no way to know.
Yeah,
Right?
I mean, thousands of SKUs. I mean, it is
Yeah.
just thousands of SKUs.
It was, I believe when I was at Sysco Atlanta, it was like 18,000 SKUs that they have access to.
Yeah.
It might not all be stocked in the building, but it's a city.
From cooking oil to silverware to beef, right?
If you see it inside of a facility, they've got it.
Yeah.
I mean, from equipment all the way down. I mean, everything.
Yeah.
Food products is the main part of that, obviously, but it's anything you see inside of a restaurant.
So then with that, and I think this is, again, I'm talking about things that I've kind of experienced and got to learn because I knew none of this coming from the animal science side. How important is beef or meat, but specifically beef, when you're carrying nearly 20,000 items in your catalog? How important is beef to getting that sale or building that business?
One thing we used to talk about, I've been doing this for 24 years now, I believe, and the story was always, if you control the center of the plate, then you've earned the opportunity to work with that partner on all their other items. With that being said, it's incredibly important. I mean, absolutely important that you have the right product, you have the right knowledge to be able to move that product, have it aged properly, have it priced accordingly, all those things. But yeah, I mean, if you don't control that middle, you're not the main partner in that account.
Yeah, I look at it, it's like, when people go out to eat, they're not looking for, no one's talking about the carrots, the sour cream. You're talking about that stage. That's what drives you to go out to eat and enjoy, have that experience. And no shame on, I know vegetables are important, but center of the plate, plate's where it's at.
Protein drives everything.
Well, and that's why I think as someone in the beef industry, I'm always so proud when I see a Buckhead truck or a Sysco truck wrapped, the semi wrapped with a certified Angus beef branded steak on it, right? And that truck is carrying, you don't see cooking oil on it or a package of carrots, right? Pat, to your example. And again, not to take a lot of pride in that, but also to understand the importance of delivering that great beef experience to you guys, for you guys' business, to sell everything else, right? I've learned that, right? That's really so vital to your business. So thus you wrap a semi with just one product. Yeah.
Mark, you look at it. I mean, beef is sexy. There's really no other way to say it. I mean, it just is. It's the sexy sell.
We may have found our tagline.
It is.
That's right.
Maybe the name of this podcast, Beef is Sexy.
Look, it is primal. It is encoded in our DNA. It is sexy. And that's the fun thing to go out and talk about, to be able to tell that rancher's story, that family story, to be able to connect that whole thing. Like Shepard said, you don't flip a menu over and read the story about where they procure their carrots from, but they will talk about their procurement strategies on proteins and things like that. I mean, that's what it always comes down to. It's when people think about the holidays, you don't think about what that broccoli casserole smelled like. It's what that prime rib smelled like, and how you satiate thinking about it. I mean, it elicits all these emotions out of people. But Mark, I want to go off what you said. If you look at it, the rancher and the chef and the sales consultant, they may never shake hands, but economically, we're all partners in this. I mean, this is so symbiotic that we can't take care of our families and go out and take care of our partners and their families if that ranching family doesn't start the whole process, right? So I'm able to take care of my family because of what's done at that farm level, and incredibly thankful. And when we have sales reps come in, new sales consultants or new team members for that matter, we tell them, but before we teach you how to sell a ribeye, we want you to understand where that ribeye came from and the families and their livelihoods that are tied to it. Because our business doesn't start at the loading dock. It starts at that family farm, right? So go hug a farmer, go thank them, because you would not be taking care of your family today if they didn't do what they did. And what they do is a hard job. It's a very hard job, but all steps along the way, it's so incredibly important, from the farmer to the feed yard, to the harvesting facility, to the trucking company that gets us to us, how we fabricate it, how it's handled at that point in time in the sale, how's it taken care of from a sales consultant chef standpoint, and then it gets to the chef, and the chef has to do the work of making sure that that beautiful canvas that we gave them to create from, that they now can create a dish that a consumer is going to sit down. They could be celebrating something, maybe mourning something. Who knows why they're at your restaurant? But there's an emotional connection there, and if they have this amazing product that started 3 years before at conception, and all the steps that had to take place and everything had to go right for that eating experience, that person could sit down and talk about that great steak they had 5 years ago at this one place. All that work went into it, all of it. And each step is important.
We're all kind of nodding along with that, but I think that's a great illustration of, I always say that the food service distributors are sort of the ambassadors for our product to those who will then be serving it to the consumers. So maybe tell us a little bit about how you actually do that. When you go to present beef to a customer, you're trying to convince them to carry this product.
Mm-hmm.
What's that process involve?
Well, the first process is understanding what their needs are more than anything. Because look, we want to sell product to somebody. We want to sell them certified Angus beef. And that's what we lead with. As a partner, that's what we want to take them to. We don't walk in talking to them about select beef, right? We don't walk in talking about commodity choice because we know it's not the best thing for their business as a whole, typically, right? You don't want to gamble with your beef dollars. Let's get you into something that's going to perform at a high level each and every time, right? So it's kind of an insurance policy for the customer. We've got to understand what they're currently doing and who they're currently doing that with. So we want to know what brand they're using, what the dishes are, what's going on, how are you working with this product, first and foremost, before we can go back and say, all right, I've got a great product for you to take a peek at that I think will take you to that next level. So understanding their world and their business and that operation inside of that restaurant, those four walls, is the first step in that entire process. So it's understanding what they're doing and how they're doing it. So then we can go back and look at our arsenal of items and start helping them identify products that can help them succeed even more.
Guys, maybe talk a little. I think probably most listeners would first start envisioning a steakhouse and probably envision you walking into a steakhouse. And of course, what we'll call a traditional steakhouse, a pretty important customer, but you have lots of different types of customers. Maybe walk through kind of what does your customer base look like from when we say food service, it's not just white tablecloth restaurants.
No, I'd say the majority is not the white tablecloth. Think about any experience you've had going out and eating a meal that wasn't at your house. Or heck, it could even be at your house because we deal with retail and butcher shops and things like that as well. Anywhere where you've gone in and had a bite to eat and had a steak, or it could be ground beef, it could be burgers, as Shepard said, it could be tacos, whatever it may be. And we're trying to utilize that entire carcass. So, Mark, I would say anywhere you've dropped $1 to buy a protein, we're involved in it in some way. Right, from hospitals to universities to restaurants to you name it.
Cruise ship to, right? Yeah, all of the.
I mean, everything, anything you can imagine. Like we do business with the airlines and food that goes on. If you can find an airline where you get a prepared meal now, we deal in that as well. I mean, it's all encompassing.
Yeah. Gas stations. I mean, you look at somebody like a Buc-ee's, it's everywhere.
You know, and funny you say that, gas stations. I've talking about Louisiana. I mean, it's the one state I've been to where you can walk into a convenience store and you can see prime beef sitting behind the counter, where you can pick up a strip, a ribeye, a full tank of gas, a Mountain Dew, or whatever else you're going to grab, and hit the road. Right? I mean, I've never seen anything like that as in New Orleans, but you'd be surprised where you can get high quality beef.
I think some people would be surprised to know that quality has a home in all of those places. You know, they might think those are your select customers, and then
I'd say more so nowadays. My goodness gracious, I can think back to starting with working with certified Angus beef product. I don't know, Mark. I can't tell time anymore. I'm getting old, but 15 to 18 years ago.
20 years ago, yeah.
And then you looked at 35% of the market was select, right? 2% was prime. And now we've seen those things switch. Well, not 2% on select, but it seems to be heading that way, right? Well, we're seeing a 10% to 15% grade out in select, and we're seeing a 10 to 15% grade out in prime, which is phenomenal. We're seeing that high choice category take up more and more and more because, look, the reason we see it ultimately is because consumers are willing to pay for it. You know, they vote with their dollars as to what they want, and they want high quality. Right. So I think we saw on a slide that consumption of beef was down 0.5 pound per year per consumer. And I may be wrong on that, but I think it was 5.7 versus 5.1. And maybe that's a weekly consumption. I just remember seeing that it's dipped a little bit. Yep. But what we see is when people go out to have a great steak, they have a destination in mind. Like they know where they're going. You don't really happen upon a great steak. You know where you're going.
Yeah.
So you might not eat it as much, but you know the place you're going to get it when you're going to go drop the dollars for it. Right. So for me, quality is, I mean, it's gotten so much more important, and it continues to get more important every day, which is why, when we sat and talked on that panel, hey, keep producing prime and we'll keep moving it. The market wants it. The market will buy it. That's what the consumer wants. Shepard, you can talk to this more than I can, but I can't tell you the last time I had a conversation with somebody about a great select steak and trying to get a select program.
Yeah, and operators realize that, quality brings people back through the door. And that's what you're going to they put their money into the quality. It brings people back, those return customers, and that's how you succeed. So that's, a lot of these little places that we mentioned that, where there's a truck stop or a lot of food trucks and stuff like that, that brings it. A lot of food trucks get their start with quality, and they're able to go to that brick and mortar based off serving quality and bringing people lines at food trucks. So it's the building block of success if you're in this business.
So we would see, for instance, on, let's say, a place that's known for seafood. Right, 10 years ago they would say, all right, I got to have a steak on the menu, let's give me a select ribeye. I mean, that was kind of the mindset. And now to be able to sit down with them and go, all right, you're known for all this great seafood. Don't you want to be known for a great steak when somebody decides to buy that as well? Like that's a reflection on the rest of the menu. And we're seeing more people start that conversation with us versus we started with them now. So the mindset, it's shifted entirely in the industry. And people want something that's going to sit on that plate and perform. Even if they're not known for a great steak, they're known for seafood. They want something that accompanies that will equally reflect how great their seafood is inside of their beef program.
Pat, if you could give us a little bit of a deeper insight into a day in the life for you. You say, well, you're procurement and you're buying product and you're matching sales with what's out there, but it's obviously quite sophisticated. And so maybe give us a little bit of an insight of how you procure product, how you know what to procure, how that all works, and maybe how it's changed a little bit over your career.
Well, I would say, you feel better about taking chances on quality versus taking chances on something that doesn't have quality to it, your lower grade beef products. It doesn't take a lot to move the needle for me to go procure something that's got quality behind it. If someone, asks like, hey, I'm interested in a certified Angus beef prime bottom flat, my ears perk up like, oh, okay, let's go. Let's do this. Let's push it. Let's move the needle. Let's see where we can go with this. If we can grow that line, get this started, I'm behind you on pushing quality, because at the end of the day, it's going to outperform. It's going to look good. If you're doing sandwich meats, anything like that, it's going to perform. And as a purchaser, I want things off the shelf, and I don't want things sitting. I like things to flow in, they flow out. I want everything to be structured, and that quality helps that go. And it's just easier to move, easier to get behind from my chair, and that's where I'm always looking is trying to move that needle in quality. And what are we missing in our lineup? What else can we add? What can we cut? Coming from a corporate buying, and also from the OpCo, the food distribution, the Sysco side of buying, being at Buckhead where it's production, what can we produce? What is the yield on this? What can we make? If we cut it this way, what do we do here? If we do, what byproducts can we use on this? That's where it gets really fun sitting in this chair, is like, what artistry, what art can you create from this meat that you can bring in, and finding new ways, because there's no new subprimals or muscles on the animals. That is something that the produce guys have over us. They can mix some seeds and come up with a purple carrot or something, or a purple pineapple. We don't have any. We got grade. We don't have any new muscles coming on the animals. You kind of got to utilize what you have. And one of the biggest things I see now is like utilizing the offals. Like there's a big push on those, like oxtails and tongues, and utilizing the entire animal. For my chair, it's just, like I said, that flow, and quality helps. I'm always a big one of quality, and I kind of try to talk people into. I had a conversation with a rep that day. He's like, do we have select? No. Do we have choice? No.
Just not
So let me get this
No,
straight. I
yeah.
have one option. I'm like, yeah, you've got one option to get this done on this top round. Let's go. You know,
Well, I think what Shepard's looking for in his chair as well is he wants product that's going to pull through the system versus just having to push it through the system.
Yeah.
What we find so often when we pull in, a no-roll fed program or whatever it may be, and there's a home for that stuff, make no mistake, that it ends up being that product that's sitting on that shelf, that seventh, eighth week, which is fine because it'll take age, but he's having to work hard to push that stuff through the building. Like, hey, please clean me out. When it's quality stuff, he's trying to keep up on the buy so often, right? Because it's pulling through. The market keeps pulling it versus us having to just push that stuff through and try to get it out. So he really downplayed what he does on a day. This guy gets up very early, gets his finger on the pulse of an ever-moving market very, very early. And that guy is the last one to leave this building often. And I always know that I'm going to get a phone call from Shep on his hour drive home because he lives in Atlanta, which could be 1 mile, but it's going to take him a while to get there. But we're going to talk about things that happen throughout the day, right? Very, very connected in what we do. But it all in our building, and just like we started at the ranch, we say that the whole business starts at the ranch. Well, in our building, everything starts with him, right? What did he procure? What's in the building? What's going on? Did he buy it at the right time? What did he have to maneuver? Where's it coming from? All those things start with Shepard, right? They start with him. So our team has to have the confidence that Shepard, the Shep, has his position exactly where we need to be to go get it.
I feel the same way about other departments too. I mean, that's a lot, and I appreciate but I also look at the sales team that BJ leads, and all our sales leaders do, and the guys behind the scenes that are cutting back there on the saw, and like it's a team effort. There's no one department that can do it all. We all have to work together, and we've got a fabulous group that listens and they're passionate. We've had people come in and they quickly learned that this is a high quality building. Like, we push the numbers on. If it's not beef, it's also in pork. It's in seafood. It's everything. We're pushing quality because, you want to be proud of what you sell. You want to be proud of what you sell someone. And, it's easy to build confidence and feel good about yourself when you're selling something that is good.
I want to go back to one of the comments you said back there where you said that's when it really gets fun, because I heard your title and thought, oh, procurement in a time like this can't be fun where we're at in the cattle cycle. So talk a little bit about, with prices where they are, how that's changed, maybe what you've done. You talked a little bit about cutting creatively and some things like that, but.
Yeah. You talk about pricing. I mean, we can just, been doing this for a while, not as long as others. I've been doing it for a while. Been with Sysco 16 years now, in several different facets, 6 different buildings. But yeah, if I think back to pricing, like what I bought something, in 2015 for compared to now, even some like 2 years ago, like I look at like what a hanging tender is valued at today versus 2 years ago. It's incredible. I mean, beef tongues, oxtails, it is. But if you do the math, and that's why I like to break down the math on things where in production, and the increases, when you break it down to proportion per ounce, it's not as intimidating once you break it down. I think the times have changed on managing you've really got to manage your inventory as an operator. And that's where, we try to educate too. It's like, you can't have 40 different steaks in the 1980s where you had a 6 ounce, 8 ounce, 10 ounce of every steak on your menu. You've got to be a good consultant to push menu strategy to be profitable. But once you break it down and show what you're charging and show, the value to the customer, I don't think it's as, that's where the quality kind of helps. It's like, everybody feels good about it. You're not selling them, a used, I hate to call it a select no roll product used, but it's kind of a used car. Like, you're selling something that might work and might not work. You don't know when it's going to die on you. And, it's hard to get behind that spiritually and like say, I'm proud of this. And as a restaurateur, chef too, I'm sure they're just as proud to sell that to that customer. Generally, you can see it in the reviews.
Yeah. And with that, we're going to take a quick time out for this word from Angus Media.
From feeding cows and fixing fence to delivering bulls or attending kids' sporting events, the Angus Journal team knows you have a lot on your plate. But a busy schedule doesn't mean you should fall behind on what's happening in the beef industry. Subscribe to the AJ Daily or the AJ Weekly to get timely emails sent straight to your inbox so you don't miss a thing. Visit angusjournal.net to sign up today.
Pat, you bring up an element maybe a lot wouldn't think about, just inventory, the cost of inventory. You guys age product, right? So you've got to hold product for 21 or maybe longer on some cuts, less on others, right? But the cost of that inventory, when you figure how many dollars you've got wrapped up in your cooler and the cost of money, that's not a insignificant number. And the same for a restaurateur, right? Much, much smaller scale. But I think that inventory management and keeping inventory moving and the cost of inventory, again, just further illustrates how complex this business can be and where there's some incredible costs and to your point, benefits of quality that we maybe wouldn't even really think about, of keeping that product moving, limiting the number of products that they're going to have to carry in their cooler.
Well, I think that's where another important piece of being a Sysco company comes into play, is given the fact that we do sit on so many $1 million of inventory and we have to pay our bills within 7 days. And having that big checkbook behind us is able to support us to keep us making good decisions from a regulation standpoint. USDA, all those things are in this building at all points in time. But we've seen instances out there where somebody can make a buy on a tender. A number just pulled out here, say $15 a pound on tenders, and we have to age that out 3 weeks, and that market just drops. And it has done that in the past. I don't know if anybody remembers that a market will drop sometimes. And you're $2 a pound on the wrong side of a few truckloads of product.
Yeah.
With being a Sysco company, we're able to not be put in a position where we've got to make a bad choice or an ethical choice, which we will not do, given the leadership in this building also. But we're able to weather those storms, right? When the market does shift on us in the way it does, and we're on the wrong side of inventory, we can still value the inventory where we need to. And if we have to take a loss at that point in time, we can, just to make sure we stay right on that market. We're a very, very low margin business, very low margin, but we're a high volume, right? So we've got to continue to make the right decision for our customers, which we will do, not only because it's the right thing to do, but legally, that's exactly what we're going to do. But we've all seen cases out there in the industry where that didn't happen. Right. Where people will start sliding grades and doing all kinds of funny stuff. And that's a beautiful part about being part of this corporation is, one, if you're ever found doing something like that, you will not work here at all. But two, it continues to keep that confidence from the consumer all the way back. And that's another part that's so great about certified Angus beef that we love about that program, is that every pound's tracked. Every single pound is tracked to the point of, I remember this, we launched in Charlotte certified Angus beef, goodness gracious, 2011. I can't even remember what time it was. And I got a phone call from Denise Matheny, God rest her soul, after 1 year. And it said, BJ, you guys sold 2.2 million pounds of meat last year. And I thought she was giving a thank you call. I'm like, well, thank you for calling, Denise. That's great. She goes, well, hang on. You're missing 2,000 pounds. That it's showing that you sold, but we don't see where you bought it. I need you to go find that. And I sat there and reminded her that I'm from Alabama, Denise, and that may be a little challenging, but let me see what I can do and jump on this, because we could lose our license to sell that product if we're not able to account for every pound. And so it took me 2 weeks to go back and find that it was the way we were running samples through the system, that it wasn't capturing the buy. It was just showing the sell, how it got to the building. But if we didn't find that 2,000 pounds out of 2.2 million, we could have lost our license. Now, to me, that's there to protect every single person in the entire industry, from the packer all the way down to the person that's sitting down eating that steak at the end. And I'm tying that back in with the quality aspect, right? We're held to a high standard as to what we put in a box, right? And we love being partners with companies that also hold everyone to that same standard. That's a partnership. That's a definitive partnership.
And frankly, I mean, you say everybody from the packer forward, it's there to protect the producer as 100%. Much as anybody.
Yeah. I would hope an Angus breeder listening to this would be excited about that story, saying, hey, that's my brand in certified Angus beef that's here to drive the value of my cattle. I'm glad there's that level of integrity and care taken to make sure that it's not getting misrepresented.
Well, and that's what I love about what certified Angus beef does when it goes into a market. It's not a Sysco brand. It's not a Buckhead brand. It doesn't belong to anyone. It belongs to the American Angus Association. When they go in and interview, they're going to award a license into a market. It's the only brand you will see inside of any broadliner out there, Sysco, US Foods, PFG, Gordon, name one. It's the only one that we had to interview for. We had to interview for the right to be able to sell that product. And we're also inviting them in, to audit our books to make sure that's exactly what we're selling.
Mhm.
That's beautiful, right? And for us to be able to go out and talk to our partners about that, like, no, we proudly serve certified Angus beef. We had to earn the right to sell it, and we have to continue to earn that right every year to make sure that we are doing exactly what we say we're going to do, or we could lose that opportunity and that license to be a part of something so beautiful, that program. So for the ranchers out there, if you don't know it, I'm telling you right now, certified Angus beef does not play when it comes to making sure that product's in that box every single pound. We want to make sure that we are showcasing their hard work properly, and we have to earn it.
I love how you talk about that in such a positive light. I don't know that
Yeah,
everybody
absolutely.
that has to go to all that work.
yeah, yeah,
Look, it's a beautiful thing. It's the most level playing field there is,
yeah.
right? So, look, there are brands out there that they play games and they slide stuff and they do whatever. They may downgrade you to a low choice. And not saying that the brand is doing that, but somebody may try to slide this box in when it was supposed to be this. Certified Angus beef is certified Angus beef, right? We got it in prime, we got it in traditional high choice, we got it in natural. And if you're crazy enough to try to go out and find prime natural, you can, right? But certified Angus beef is true to who it is, and you know what's in that box.
Yeah. BJ, before we leave price, because as I think I talked to, most cattlemen, I mean, we all understand the historic price levels we're at across this industry from what you guys are paying to what they're paying for calves. There's always some question and concern about always things in social media about beef is too high and how much beef higher can beef go, whatever. Talk a little about how you sell at these price levels. What your sense is in terms of are we up against some ceilings here? Obviously, the gap between other protein options and beef is quite large. So just your thoughts in general around price, how you sell it, where we're at.
So I'm going to take it from a few different levels. One, the first thing we try to do is explain to our partner group, right, our restaurateurs, you need live cattle to be high enough to signal back to the farmer to continue to raise high quality beef. Like, we need that. So the days of seeing a $5 rib out, they're gone. Like, get it out of here. It doesn't send the right signal to be able to continue to get high quality beef, right? So I don't mind high prices, higher prices, I should say. They've gotten up there, and no doubt about it. But it's got to be advantageous for everybody along the channel. So having an operator understand that and to go, look, if you want to get a high quality product, you're going to have to pay a high quality price, because it's got to incentivize the ranching families to be able to continue to do that. And that doesn't happen like chicken, where we can turn that needle in months. This is a multi-year project to be able to get those cattle back on, right? That signal to go back, conception to birth to grow out, all the way through. I mean, this is a long process. So we need cattle to stay higher, right? We do. Where we find the opportunity right now, look, the pricing is what it is. And consumers are showing they still want to pay that. They'll pay it as long as they get that high quality product. So what that says to me is, if beef starts slipping in quality and they're still having to pay that price, that's going to impact that final sell. That will freeze the market, so to speak. But if that product continues to perform at a high level, people will pay for it. And they're showing that. Now, again, are we getting up there? Yes. So here's where our job comes in. We have found that, when we're talking about restaurateurs, you're talking about the middle of the animal primarily, right? Ribeye, strip, tender, sirloin. Now, granted, ground chuck, ground beef, all those things, briskets, you've got that. But we tend to look right at that middle where it carries the most value across that animal. But what we found is, if we've got somebody, for instance, that's buying a no-roll sirloin flap or a select sirloin flap, and let's say they're doing a taco concept, let's just say, and they're searing it off, they cut it in house to do all those, we might be able to take them over to, let's say, a certified Angus beef prime shoulder clod, get them into a product that will actually perform better than a higher quality muscle. But since we pull it off a high quality animal, we get a better result. So then we can start driving some value off the rib over to the chuck, right? So it picks up 50 cents a pound, let's say, relieves a little bit out of that ribeye, and we're still able to merchandise and sell that animal. Now take that one example and extrapolate it off the entire carcass. I mean, the entire thing. What can we offer anatomically off that animal that may be a lower value cut that's high quality that we could give to a chef who's the true artist that could take that and turn it into an amazing dish? So I hope I answered your question when it says that we can't just focus in on the middle of the animal, right? We've got to get them buying, like Shepard said, the hanging tender, terrace major, which is a little more challenging, right? Because the amount it takes to fill a box, go into a flat iron, go into all these other offcuts. My favorite, give me a sirloin cap all day, right? Give me a culotte done to a steak free. I will pick that over a ribeye 99 times out of 100, right? Give me a prime. So what we may tell someone is, hey, you're buying a select ribeye at this price. What if we put you in a prime sirloin cap that you can offer in your menu that's going to eat better? You're going to have a better price point. You get to put prime on the menu, right? And offer this steak that people are going to talk about and want to come back and buy again. Get away from those middle meats on everything, right? So I think that's where we need to do more work on our side, is pulling the rest of that animal through so it can carry the value that it needs to relieve some of that pressure off those traditional steak cuts. They buy it by the pound, they sell it by the each, right? So they buy it by the pound, sell it by the each. So let's say that somebody's doing a 14-ounce low quality ribeye. What if we went to a 12-ounce high quality ribeye? And let's look at what it actually costs on the plate, not to mention what it's going to do for quality and how people are going to buy that more. But let's look at it from a different standpoint. Can we go down a little bit on the serving size to still hit that same menu point? Because again, they buy it by the pound, they sell it by the each. So it just depends on what they're trying to accomplish and where we can kind of plug in that expertise to try to help take them in a different direction where they don't sacrifice quality. Our job is to help them increase quality and stay profitable.
I think one of the things, and just an overarching comment I heard you say down at the Feeding Quality Forum, you said, I'd rather apologize for price than apologize for quality, right? And I think that probably just underpins what all the things you just got done saying, being creative, but at the end of the day, don't cut corners on quality.
Don't gamble with your beef dollars.
Yeah.
I just feel as a buyer, the attention on subprime is more dispersed than ever before. Like I see there's more attention on your sirloin flap, your tri-tips, your shoulder clods. You see the movement and people finding ways to put those on menus and utilize them. And I think it has been dispersed across the animal like it more than ever. And I think your YouTubes and your social media really help with that also. About what these chefs are allowed to do, communicate out to others with millions of followers on, let's just go back to the hanging tender and say, hey, this is the butcher's cut. It's only one, it's the one per animal. They make it sound so cool and like, oh man, it's the trendy thing. So I saw something on the Triscuit the other night watching a show. There's a lot of attention being put on those ends to kind of disperse the value. And I'd say it's more than ever before, which we see the pricing of ribeyes and tenders right now. I think it could be worse if it wasn't for that. If it wasn't more attention on the ends, it could be a lot worse. But
Mark, I looked at a stat not too long ago where we sold more out of this facility certified Angus beef prime than anyone in the United States, any company. I don't know if that still rings true. I haven't looked at that number in a little bit, but we didn't do it off the middle of the animal. Like we didn't do it off selling ribeye strips and tenders off prime. We did it from jumping into the other cuts on the animal, showing that there's a lot of value in those cuts and then running it that way, right? So again, we got to that point by selling the entire carcass, and we've got to continue to do that as an industry. We've got to do a better job of doing that as an industry.
Well, I think that's probably, we think about marbling all the time and we quickly go to the strip and the ribeye and think about the value. I think maybe over time, and I'll say this more from the cattle producer side, we tend to dismiss the value of marbling throughout the rest of the carcass. And you guys, in the food service world, what the briskets have done, but across the carcass. And while we probably wring our hands a little bit at the weight of carcasses and how big we've gotten these carcasses and some challenges that come with specifically the ribeye, it does create some opportunity for some of those, you mentioned the terrace major or some of these single muscles that we've pulled out On smaller carcasses, those, I know they're still not huge cuts, right? When you're pulling it off a 950 pound or 1,000 pound carcass, but it does bring some value and create some opportunity, I think, to merchandise some of these single muscles maybe a little more effectively on some bigger carcasses. So silver linings, I guess, as we think about it, and definitely, and I guess BJ, that's, you were on that panel talking about prime, and you used some of those examples around a prime shoulder clod is a replacement for a no-roll sirloin flap. I mean, I think those are great illustrations of where the value can be in prime. Where do you see the prime and certified Angus beef prime market going? I think probably, again, for some cattle producers, they look at where we're at today, 15, 16, 17% prime, and you think, how much more prime do we need? And can we overproduce prime? What are your thoughts? Pat, you give an up signal, I produce more.
Well, I would say, yeah, back, was it May, we topped out around 17% on prime, but now we're seeing, we're starting to get, I think last printed was 13%. And I'm hearing like this one's probably 12, 11. So I think we definitely need more. It's, we've seen that customers convert. There's a lot of customer conversions like, hey, I'm prime on menus, prime on menus. I think that with the industry, though, we have to find a way to get through these summer's months so people don't get gun shy putting on a menu and have to take it off. It was easy putting consumers on prime. It's easy because the quality's there. Certified Angus beef prime. It's a great eating experience. It's memorable. It's an easy conversion. I think now, looking at the last couple of weeks trying to source, prime, it's not so fun right now in my chair. It's not so great. I would love to have 17% year round. That would be an ideal situation to see it growing, 52 weeks a year.
Would ever be in a position where you'd say 12% prime is not enough, which I think Mark,
Yeah,
it does.
Right.
So who knows how high it can go? Let's see, because we haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah.
The market keeps taking it, and they keep wanting it, and it's a more educated consumer base. They want higher quality beef, right? So look, the Food Network has been a blessing and a curse. There's no doubt about it. But one thing it has done, social media and all those things, it's gotten that high quality message out there, and people want it. They want it. So look, 17%, we sold it. Get us 20. Let's see what happens. We haven't hit that ceiling yet as to what it can do. And quite honestly, with the market running and how it's run, the premium that we're paying for certified Angus beef prime over traditional, it's not tremendous. It's not that high. So when the market does come off at a certain point, when we finally get back in that cycle where it'll relax down a little bit, people have gotten accustomed to paying a higher price point for a high quality beef. So I think we're going to see more people stick on it because they're accustomed to paying that price. And we'll have more people want to jump on it when it comes back down a little bit because they know how it performs. They've kicked the tires. They've seen how their consumer responds. Heck, they can't go back down in quality because they know what it's going to do. Their customer has gotten used to sitting down in that seat and having this amazing steak experience. You can't downgrade at that point in time. Yeah. Right. So, and our customers are all looking for points of differentiation, right? Why are you coming to my place versus someone down the street? And you do that from quality of service, quality of product, all the way through, right? It's got to be this great experience that comes all the way through that channel. So I think we haven't even come close to hitting the ceiling. Challenge all the cattle families out there. Help us find it. Let's see if we can find it. Let's keep pushing that ceiling up.
I'll go out on them. I think we're 2 years away from seeing 20. I think not this next year, the following year, maybe 2028. I think we get maybe that May timeframe. And I think that'll be national news when it does. That'll ring some bells when it does it. But we're headed in the right direction. I would love to see more. I want to see producers go after the quality. It definitely, you see the results. It is. And more people will convert to it and stay on it. I think people get a taste for it, and they're not gonna downgrade. You can't do that. So, but yeah, I think we're 2 years.
You make a really important point. I think it's been an important element of growth, whether that's you look at certified Angus beef or you look at prime, and that's consistency of that supply being there allows you guys to go out, procure it, and get it sold, and get companies, whether that's a restaurateur comfortable with putting it on their menu, we think about retail putting it in their case. I think that's the old, I say supply drives demand, which is counter to what we learn in Econ 101, right? But when you're able to build a business around it and there's enough supply out there to build a business around it, and it's no question about whether the consumer wants it. We all know that one, I think that question's been answered. It's if I'm a business that's selling that consumer, can I consistently say I'm going to have it? And once as we've raised supplies, and they get that assurance, they put it on the menu, we expose more consumers, and the snowball runs downhill. So it's a pretty fun story to tell. It's a pretty fun story.
It's a fun story to be a part of too. So keep it coming.
So I heard loud and clear that your message to producers is to kind of keep the gas pedal on quality. But as we look to kind of wrap up the podcast here, and knowing, BJ, I know you were one of our first Masters of Brand Advocate graduates of the program, that you got to go spend time out with commercial ranchers and with Angus breeders and those kind of things. I guess with that in mind, you have the mic now to talk directly to Angus breeders across the country. Is there anything else that you guys want to make sure they know about what you do? Anything you want to make sure that they know directly from you guys?
I would like to say this. I started off saying it at the Feeders Forum, and I just want to make it very clear that we're so very thankful for all the hard work and all the effort that's gone in to raising this beautiful product and getting it to us so we can continue to do what we do. We can't do it without them. So the first thing I would say is thank you so very much for your work. We will honor your product. We'll continue to make sure the market captures the value of it. And that's our part of the whole equation, is making sure that your hard work doesn't go to waste. So I would like for you all to have confidence in the people that are out here telling your story and moving that product that you work so hard to do. We will continue to do that. That's something we take very passionately. And we are a part of this industry, and we love it. Meathead inside of this building is a term of endearment. So when you become a meathead, you're one of us, and you're part of this whole beautiful grassroots community that goes all the way back to the farm, right? So when we go out and do trainings and talk to people, be it sales reps for other companies, Sysco companies, wherever it is, we sell that story first. We tell that story first, I should say. You are now part of something much bigger than you just going out and trying to just take care of your family, right? You're part of something that started at the farm many years ago. And if you don't do what you do, they can't do what they do. And it's the same in return, right? So it is part of a partnership. You're a part of something that is so grassroots and bigger than you are. And your part is very important. So make sure that you're going out, telling the true story, right? Communicating what it takes to get this beautiful animal on a plate. And that's their job, right? Is to make sure. So thank you. Keep doing what you're doing. And you have my word that we will continue to make sure that it's going into the market.
Love that. Pat, I don't want to put you on the spot. You could also just say amen to that.
Yeah, I was going to say ditto, because, that's the first thing that came to mind too, is just thank you for all that you do, and we'll continue to support and grow this, in that quality direction that we appreciate it. Everything that you do. I know it's a job not for everyone. Not everybody can do it. You should be proud of that. In those tough days, we respect it and honor it, and are very thankful for what you do.
Love that.
A lot of ditto.
I want to make sure you hear a reciprocation of that thank you, because from a cattle producer's standpoint, can't do what they do out every day without the passion and the energy and the excitement and everything that you guys pour into it. So that makes for a good partnership, right? That makes for a good partnership. Okay, Miranda, the most important part of the podcast is Miranda never tells me what the random question of the week is.
So I want to know, since you guys have restaurant experience and you've all been great about, conveying your appreciation for folks along the entire beef chain, but having worked in a restaurant myself and seeing some of these individuals, I want to know, what is the most thankless job in the restaurant that you think, when we all go sit down in a restaurant, we should be thinking, thank goodness there is somebody here doing XYZ. Like somebody who maybe doesn't ever get a shout out and should.
I can think of two right off the bat.
Yeah.
The person is standing in front of that open fire, making it happen. They're like the lineman on a football team, right? The unsung hero. But blocking and tackling, making sure that that product gets out there right in incredible heat.
Yeah.
It's a hostile environment,
Mm-hmm.
very hostile environment. So that's first. Second, I'm going straight to the dish pit.
Oh, yeah.
Look at that glass. You want that glass to be clean.
Yeah.
You want to talk about a thankless job.
Yeah.
I've spent many of hours washing dishes. I mean, this is what you do. It's like being on a farm. You're going to muck something at some point in time. I don't care if you're the owner or not. You're going to get dirty. It's the same thing. I mean, the exec chef will be in there washing dishes at the end of a Friday night. That's the one I would say thank you to.
Yeah.
Because look, washing that amount of stuff on a nightly basis is no fun, but it is so incredibly important.
I agree, dishwasher. Because you ask any chef if a certain position doesn't show up that night, or if a server calls out or something like that, you can weather the storm and mix areas and like shift someone over. But if your dishwasher's not there and you've got to spend the end of the night in shifts, like trying to clean dishes and cook at the same time, and try to get because no one wants to eat off dirty dishes. Everybody wants to be, it's just, that's a thankless position. And yeah, if they don't show up and you end up having to do dishes at the end of the night, that's a miserable feeling. Right. Been there, done that.
That's exactly, if you would have asked me the question in return, like I can still see Randy, who was there every Friday and Saturday night, and thought, man, that guy, I don't know what he gets paid, but it's certainly not enough, because as a server, it was fun. You got to see everybody, all the fun parts of, people coming together and celebrating with family and enjoying the food. And then you brought back the disaster and you said, here, Randy, take care of it. So that's cool.
I got 3 kiddos. And if I want them working I don't want them working in restaurants, but if they do,
they're going to learn how to work.
I want them to work in that dish pit because I want them to know what it's like to suffer through a night doing that. So it makes them work that much harder to go find that job that they're going to love.
Yeah.
Right. So that's perspective. You get in to do that.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys what great perspective you've provided for us. I guess we didn't tell you that you were kicking off season 9 of the Angus Conversations. You're like the headliners of the year. And we appreciate that. I mean, you just are really going to set us off on a good note where our cattlemen can think about those next steps on down the chain. So appreciate all you do. And thanks for joining us today.
Well, thank you so very much for letting us be a part of this. And I'll leave you with this one last thought is you asked about beef pricing and what's going on. And look, we can't always make beef cheaper, right? It's just not going to be the case right now. But what we can do is make sure it's worth what the customer's paying. So you guys keep up the hard work on your end. We'll keep up the hard work on our end. And we're very proud to be a part of this. And thank you for your time.
Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Love that charge. Thanks, guys.
And with that, we're off and running on season 9 of the Angus Conversation. If you've been enjoying this podcast, I've got a tiny favor to ask. Go and rate us or leave us a review. That helps other producers to find this show. And to never miss the latest news or information, sign up for the AJ Daily. Just head on over to angusjournal.net and hit subscribe. This has been the Angus Conversation, an Angus Journal podcast.